Traveling through time and space, our hero has returned for another Adventure of the Ostentatious with me, your host, Austin Shock. Today is going to start a series on dungeon mastering, where we're going to go through what I call 3 elements of putting a story together. We're going to start with world building, then we're going to go through some plot building things, and then we're going to go all into those characters. Why am I going to do them in that order? Well, for me, personally, plot is the thing that comes first, but I like doing things a little bit difficult for myself, so we're going to start with that world building aspect. Also, this way, I can reference aspects of the world building in with the plot. This series is going to have 2 videos for each section. One is going to be this more short form video where I go through things really, really fast. The other is going to be a much longer form where you get to see all of the thinking that went behind each of the decisions I have made. So without further ado, we're going to go over to the already completed world building part of my building sheet. This is where I'm going to put everything together. It's a graphical organizer that I'm going to be using for this to get all my thoughts organized. So when I start with building a world, the first thing I think of is what is the really, really big picture. In this case, I start with the star system. So 3 suns, 2 moons. I'm not going to go to other planets. Then let's zoom in on the planet itself. As you can see, there are 5 continents. 2 are connected via an ice bridge, not a land bridge, an ice bridge, and the other 3 are completely separate. All continents are habited, and this is a round, globular world. I love the Discworld series that is flat on top of those 4 elephants on top of the sea turtle, but it is what it is. Here's, however, what the players need to know. They are going to start on one of the lone continents, which is continent number 2, which I have decided to call Agora, which means marketplace. I'm starting to do a little bit of world building here where the name actually means something, which means that when I take actions later on that gives me direction, they also know of only one other continent. The other 3 are complete mystery to the players, and that is the continent of Flora, which is uninhabited. So now that I have the basic world building stuff, I'm going to go down to environment. Once again, this is stuff that the players will definitely know. So Agora is a very wet environment. There are lots of rivers and streams, very humid. There are a few mountains in the middle, except around the tip in the north, and there's a magical well stream in the center, a little off-center, more to the south of the continent. There's a nice mix of plains and tropical forests, and there are precisely 2 seasons, a wet season and a humid season. Now, why am I going into this detail of all this basic continent stuff? Well, these are issues that players could investigate. These could lead to the problem that they're going to have to solve. For example, what if the streams get blocked off? What if suddenly there's a year with no rain? What is on the other side of those mountains up to the north? Or what if something happens to the wellspring? All 4 of those could end up being quests that the players will go on. Next, then once we have the ecosystem, we go into the creatures and species. So I start with the sentient ones. I made sure that I had an answer to all of the players' handbook species, because those are the basic species that people will be able to become. You don't necessarily have to do all of them. You could say, for example, that in my world, there are no half-elves, there are no halflings, but make sure that your players understand that, and make sure that your players are okay with it, and work with your players to make sure that it's something that both of you are going to be okay with. In the sense of this world, humans, elves, half-elves, gnomes, and halflings are fairly common species. They interact and live in that sort of plains area. The dwarves are pretty uncommon down in the plains, since they tend to live up in the mountains. And I can't remember if I actually wrote this down, but the dwarves are very much they all have their own peak. Basically, there are 7 main peaks, and each dwarf has their own peak, and they are astrologers. So they're very connected both to the ground and to the stars. Next, I had the half-orcs, which do exist. Instead of being in the mountains, though, they are living on the coast. They are underground, and they are technocratic. So they are ruled by their machines. They don't have electricity, as you can see, but they use their muscles to power their own machines. Lastly, we have the tieflings and the dragonborns, which are only in that northern piece on the other side of the mountains, the mysterious area. Why am I saying all this? Well, if a player decides to be a dwarf, then they have to know that they're going to be a little standing out down in the valley area, and they are going to have these interests. If they are a half-orc, once again, they're going to stand out, and if they're a tiefling or a dragonborn, they're basically going to be unheard of, so that will interact with how people react to them, and that'll change how they perceive things as well. Then what I do, though, once I have those sentient races, is I go through non-sentients. That way, when they're exploring the countryside, I have some idea what's already there. So for the rainforest, we have monkeys, colorful birds, iridescent squirrels, giant snakes in the monster manual, and dolphins in the river. So this way, we have a nice cross section of different kinds of animals. You have your herbivores, your omnivores, and your carnivores, which really help mix things together. Then for the plains, you have the murder buffalo, prairie dogs, hawks, wolves, saber-toothed wolves, always have fun, frogs, fish, ghouls, and bullet. Those last two are monster manual enemies, so that way if they encounter something out there, I have an idea of what it is. And lastly, the mountains. This is all unknown to the players. They're not going to have any idea what's up there, but I'm going to know that there are some goats and some dragons. Then I go into the countries. Once again, these are the known places. These are the places the characters already know about. It's okay to have information that your players don't know, that they're going to have to either discover or that they're going to make assumptions about. And those assumptions either will be right or wrong, and it is player choice that determines if they ever figured that out and how they figured that out. So I named these after different things that the countries make. One, we have Textilia, which grows the textiles. We have the Pescadores, which control the waterways. Now, the waterways are where all the travel goes through, so anything that disturbs them are definitely going to disturb these people the most. Then we have Quararia, who are the quarry people. They live near the mountains and the plains, and they quarry rocks. Then we have Fruitopia, which collects fruits from the forests, and Kiravia, which makes medicines from the things they find in the forest, which is where they live. Now, how does this all look when I make a map? I made a very quick, simple map in Google Slides. So here, first of all, we have the world. You might notice that it looks like something. It's okay to have fun with your maps. We have the 2 moons here. We have the 3 suns, 2 of which look very similar, and one is a lot smaller. So I've just sort of decided these 2 orbit around this one, and everything else orbits around that mess of gravity. And then I did a zoom up. So here we have Agora, here we have Flora. Did a zoom up. So as you can see, I have some area for the core areas right here. All these forests here, no forest down here. You might also notice that there's no forest around this river here, which, given that it's a band of forests, is a little bit odd. And I did that so I would give my players something to go, huh, I can investigate that. So this has been the very basics of how to set up the world building for your campaign. Think not only about what the world looks like, but how all those bits interact with each other, and try and give yourself lots of things that you can then build off of in terms of where the players either go or what problems they're going to end up solving. Next time, I'm going to go over some ideas of how to build a plot and how to build off of that world building so that the world and the plot are not separate from each other, but mixed and support each other through the adventure. Speaking of adventures, this has been another adventure of the ostentatious. If you like to tell your friends, if you hated it, tell your enemies, and if you don't care either way, tell everyone. With me, your host, Austin Schock. Thank you so much. Stay safe, be amazing, and happy quarantine.
Hi, me again. One last small thing. I'm currently in the process of moving my videos over to my Adventures of the Ostentatious YouTube page. That way everything coheses a lot better in terms of the name of the channel with the things that I do themselves. The link is down in the doobly-doo. Please connect to it and follow me over there. Thank you.